Here at Garden Island and behind me is the L-50 HMAS Tobruk, commissioned in 1981, decommissioned just last year, and its final preparations for its journey up to Bundaberg and Hervey Bay in the very near future. This is a fantastic opportunity for our region. The HMAS Tobruk, as you can see behind me, is a very large vessel. It will make an incredible piece of infrastructure for dive tourism. It's a great boost for our regional economy. It's a great boost for jobs. I'm just so very pleased that we have the opportunity to deliver something as important as this to our region.
Peter Racy here, Anzac Day Precinct and World War II History YouTube channel. Betty Murphy, co-founder of the Descendants of the Rats of Tobruk, has asked me to do a little bit of research on the background to the Tobruk dive site off of Bundaberg. And that's the reason why the introduction clip sets the scene. Now, I want to play a little bit more of the local member as he talks about the project, and I'll be back.
Today is a historic day for the Hinkler electorate because today the ex-HMAS Tobruk will be scuttled in the waters between Bundaberg and Hervey Bay to create a one-of-a-kind military dive rig. Divers will be able to swim the length of the tank deck, and you can't do that anywhere else in the world.
Keith Pitt, Federal MP, outlines how a memorial to the Rats of Tobruk in Bundaberg became a dive site of international importance.
It was a hard-fought battle to secure Tobruk for the region, which began in 2013, and I want to thank Hervey Bay fishing icon Nikki Schultz for first suggesting the idea to me. Ed Gibson, Scott Rowe and the Military Dive Wreck Advisory Group for their passionate and persistent advocacy. Both regional councils in Bundaberg and Fraser Coast, and finally the businesses and residents of Hinkler who provided their support. Although Tobruk's service to the nation has come to an end on the water, its new life under the water will provide long-term, sustainable local jobs in the tourism sector in Hinkler for generations to come.
I'm doing a voiceover of the decommissioning of the Tobruk, and on the bottom right hand corner, as you look at it, you can see how the dive is seen through the eyes of a diver in today's world. However, I just thought I would canvass in the first instance some of Betty's issues that she raised. So this is the second Australian naval ship named Tobruk, and it's probably the more appropriate ship naming, as the Australian Navy was a crucial element in the Battle of Tobruk because it ran effectively a ferry service supplying the troops, and without those supplies obviously they couldn't fight. So while the first Tobruk named naval vessel was a great honour, it didn't really connect back to the role the Australian Navy had at the Battle of Tobruk. However, the now dive site, Tobruk, did.
It is quite an emotional day. It's a range of emotions, from a little bit of sadness, but certainly I think many are feeling a great sense of pride. The last 2 years have been very busy, but for a ship of some 34 years service with so many operations, who has achieved so much and helped so many people, it's a great way for the ship to end its career, having again recently been in Vanuatu conducting humanitarian assistance. And
so before we move on to the next little bit of this YouTube, which is a piece on the Scrapyard Flotilla, full credit needs to be given to Channel 7's Wide Bay news coverage of the sinking of the Tobruk. This bit of footage here is just quite exceptional, and I think will be a really great link in to the last little bit of this YouTube, which is a piece on the diving of the ship as it now can be experienced. Really quite a satisfying task that Betty Murphy's given me in putting all this together. Thank you so much, Betty. And let's move on.
Just one thing. The battle in North Africa seesawed back and forth. The British would gain a bit, then the Italians would come back at them, and so on. Things changed when Rommel arrived in early 1941, and Rommel was a far better general than any of them, and he then gained the upper hand. But he could never take the fortress of Tobruk. That remained holding out, and that was important because Tobruk was a vital, a strategic port in North Africa, in the Mediterranean, and through that he should have been able to get supplies from the Italians. But the Australians in there, the Australian soldiers in there held out, and they were sustained by the Scrapyard Flotilla.
Under the command of?
Waller was basically, I think his title was Commanding Officer Inshore Squadron or something rather, official like that. It wasn't just the Scrapyard, other ships did it as well. I mean, they had to send in tankers and all sorts of things. But the Scrapyard Flotilla ships went back and forth, bombed every time they did it, every time. The Germans knew when they were coming and were there to meet them.
Now, on one of these runs, HMAS Waterhen was sunk by an Italian dive bomber. Yeah, that's the only one of the Scrapyard flotillas that was lost to enemy action in the Mediterranean. The other, Stuart escaped unscathed, Voyager escaped unscathed, Vampire and Vendetta all escaped unscathed. They were remarkably lucky that very, very few people were killed. Waterhen, sadly, was had to be let go. They tried to tow her to safety. A British destroyer tried to tow her back to port. Didn't work. She just took on too much water. But the British destroyer nudged alongside, and the crew of Waterhen stepped aboard as if they were catching a Sydney Harbour ferry, complete with a dog.
All right, the man himself, Corey from Oz Dive.
How are we?
How many times have you actually dived the Tobruk?
I would say now probably close to 25, 30 times since she's been down.
And how has it changed over the years? What should we expect to see today?
Pretty much what's happened is a lot more coral growth is starting to go on the wreck now, which has been really, really good. And because of where she sits, there's a lot of pelagics that are coming around. So we should see some big barracuda today,
yep,
without doubt. Hopefully some big gropers. There'll be big schools of fish and just an epic wreck, how she sits.
And you're telling me, what makes this dive site so unique? What happened to it?
Well, when they actually sunk the boat, it didn't quite go to plan. So instead of just sinking down and sitting on the bottom, she actually rolled over onto a side.
Yeah.
So the good thing is some people think that's bad, but I actually like it because it's disorientated everybody in the wreck. It's more like the ship actually sunk on its own, yeah, rather than being placed down there for us. So the ceiling and the floor that would normally be is actually now our sidewalls, and obviously the opposite way around for the sidewalls is now our ceiling and our floor as well. So
well, I'm up for a unique experience diving. So
it'll be pretty cool. Epic conditions too, I think. Hopefully, yeah, good viz. We've got marvellous running conditions, so should be a good diving with some luck. Maybe some sharks.